When most people think about preparedness, they picture someone stockpiling food, water, and ammo. That's the prepper. But there's a hidden risk. The prepper phase can leave you vulnerable because it's reactive. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Grumpy Acres tonight. This is the fourth video in our Prepper Continuum series. And tonight we're going to talk about the prepper phase on the Prepper Continuum and how it is reactive. Now, I'm going to deconstruct the prepper here in this video, and I want everybody to understand going forward that this is not derogatory. This is not anything negative about the prepper phase. It's just a reality of the way it is. Okay, so don't anybody get upset. Before we go on, if you are a new viewer here, please think about subscribing. Watch the entire video. You reach the end. If you like it, go ahead and subscribe. We talk about things like this. We talk about liberty and freedom and everything that it takes to live a life done free. All right, so the key message here is being prepared is good, but stopping at stockpiling can give you a false sense of security. This is why the main takeaway from this entire video is we move forward. We try to move out of the prepper phase into the prep starter phase. All right. I guess the first thing we need to do is we need to discuss what reactive means. All right. Because it's in today's world, it's kind of got a negative response. They like throwing this word around, but reactive preparedness is responding to external threats or news events with short-term solutions. All right. It's driven by fear or urgency, not by an internal long-term vision. Now, please do not take that as being negative. All right. Preparedness, prepping is driven by fear. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I've got this theory. Every single person out there is driven by their pet fear. This is the fear that drives them to do what they do on a daily basis. And for preppers, it can be a meteor strike. It can be a nuclear meltdown at a power plant. It could be war, whatever. In fact, Nat Geo on their Doomsday Preppers, this is what they focused on. They focused on everybody's, not everybody's, but the people that run that show. They focused on their pet fears and they amplified it. And quite frankly, they gave prepping a bad name. In fact, for a long time, I did not even like using the word prepper because it had such a bad connotation. So here's some examples that of recent that we've got. Panic buying during the pandemic. And we're starting to see panic buying now, what with the tariff war that started and all the international tensions. Buying a generator after a hurricane hits a nearby town. Around here, it's not hurricanes, it's snowstorms and tornadoes. People buy this stuff. In fact, I've got a running joke that whenever a snowstorm is coming, we run out of the Makins and milk sandwiches because every time that happens, people run to the store and they buy milk and bread. And the only thing I can figure they're making is milk sandwiches. The next one is, and we saw this a lot during the later years of Obama, watching the news and ordering 5 cases of MREs. I don't know if you were in the prepping community back then. I don't know if you remember this, but we got some really good deals after Trump was elected the first time because people took their foot off the gas and they had all these supplies and everything that they I'm not going to need these because we got a president that believes the same thing I believe. So they would start selling this stuff. So yeah, there's some examples. Now, here are some of the characteristics of the reactive prepper or the prepper who's in reactive mode. Okay. Stockpile centered. A lot of the prepper sites on the internet. In fact, I can think of one specifically who every time he does a video, he's like, stack it to the rafters. You focus on storing food, water, batteries, and ammo. This is a good thing. Focusing on that stuff is a good thing, but focusing on it at the expense of everything else can lead to disaster. Oftentimes it doesn't include production like gardening, livestock, or water collection. The next characteristic is the crisis mindset. And again, this is what Nat Geo focused on. They say, I'm prepping for the big one, whether it's an EMP, a civil war, or societal collapse. This is what they're focusing on. And they're not saying, I am building a sustainable life. The next characteristic we get is short-term focus. Recently did a poll on our YouTube channel, and something like 65% of the people in the poll were focused on 3 days, 3 months to be able to huddle in place. 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 months. That was a majority of the poll. Less thought is given to what happens 6 to 12 months out when you're in reactive mode, right? And I'm not saying that as a negative thing for anybody that's in that mode. I mean, there may be some extenuating circumstances as to why you're taking that focus, but even if your current circumstances only allow you to have 3 weeks or 3 months worth of food, you should always be looking beyond that and trying to get to a place where you can look 6 months, 12 months, 2 years, whatever. All right, the next one, and this characteristic is not solely in the prepper realm. It gets into the prep steading phase too, but you start working out of it. But this is we're reliant on systems. We rely on power grid for our freezers. We're guilty of this. We're in the prep starter phase. We're starting to go into the homesteader phase again, and we are still reliant on the grid. We rely on the internet for research. Well, we don't, because as you can see back behind me, I mean, well, you can see the tail end of it right there. We've got the starts of a pretty extensive library here, and it's growing all the time as we add new titles to it. And it's all about homesteading and skills that we don't have to have electricity to learn this stuff. And then the last one is that we rely on stores for food rotation and replacement. We're dependent on the first in, first out method of stocking. The first stuff that went into the pantry is the first stuff to come out of it. We are moving beyond that right now because we've got the chickens and the goats and the sheep, and I've been eating a lot of food. Okay, realistically, it is first in, first out because I've been butchering the older animals, but it's on the hoof. It's not stuck in our pantry. It's much more mobile and it's much more robust. All right, guys. Well, listen, we're about halfway through the thing. Do you guys have any questions going forward? I want to say hey to everybody that's in the chat so far. We got Lynn. We got Carrie Robertson, and yes, skills are the most valuable thing because they weigh nothing, and you can take them with you wherever you go. Bonnie Blue 2A, glad to see. Yes. Whenever snowstorms roll around in the Midwest, Missouri, and Kansas area, people are looking to make. If they're not making milk sandwiches, they're making French toast. Actually, it takes eggs. Rabid Coyote just popped in. Hey, listen, I'm gonna do a shameless plug here, guys. It's May. Mother's Day is coming up next Sunday. If you haven't gotten her a gift yet, think about going to our bonfire store down below in the affiliate links and purchasing this t-shirt for her. This is the featured t-shirt for the month of May, and it's Mom Life, fueled by coffee and crisis. Moms need to be appreciated for everything that they do, seriously. And I have not yet known a mom that hasn't strived on both those things. And you've got the messy bun and the tied hair and the aviator shades that at least around here seems to be inevitable for a lot of moms. And it's a good gift for us. So if you haven't got one, go ahead and think about getting it. Okay, Carrie, before we go on with the next one, Carrie asks, what favorite books to have? So, here's my thing. Here's the thing about your library. You're not going to be a master at everything you do, and you shouldn't strive to be, because quite frankly, you can't be. You're not going to be able to master every single skill. What you need to do is be able to carry on a conversation with somebody who has mastered a skill. Like if you've got a carpenter coming to do some work, you should be able to talk to them and understand what they're saying. So my favorite books are the general knowledge books. I think that my favorite ones are the stories books. They've got the great big large format books on homesteading and survival skills. I think those are my favorite books because they've got a wide range of topics in it that are very easy to understand. All right. So moving on, let's go on to the next topic. So here's the main risk of being reactive. Finite resources. I say it all the time. Prepping is a finite solution to something that could be an indefinite problem. Your stores are going to run out. All right. You're eventually going to get to a point where your pantry's empty and you're going to have to move on and find something else. All right. So that is the number one problem with the prepper mindset. You can survive, you can stack a year's worth of food. If you've got the room, you could do it. If you've got more room, you could stack more years worth of food, but eventually you run out. So it's good to learn learn skills so you can move beyond that. The second thing is, and I see this all the time, guys, seriously, a false sense of confidence. A lot of people buy the Four Patriots or the Augustin Farms survival kits, and it gives them a false sense of readiness. The survival banks, the survival seed banks. If you've never gardened, you're going to plant those survival seed banks. Number one, they may not have the seeds in it that will grow in your area or that you will eat. Number two, they could all fail. One of the first things I tell people as a permaculture consultant is before you do anything on your property, you should have 6 months worth of food and supplies stored up, because that's how long it takes to get your permaculture systems up and productive. The reality of it is, without skills, all your plans fall apart fast. And even if you've stacked a bunch of stuff, like I said in the last section, dependency still exists. The water still comes out of the faucet, food comes from the store, and if those systems go down, the prepper can quickly become just as vulnerable as the unprepared. I did a video a year and a half ago, maybe, where I talked about the choke points in our current day supply system. I can't do it during the live, but after I'm done with the live, I'll see if I can't put it down in I'll pin it in the comment section, and you guys can go look at this and see exactly how vulnerable the U.S. supply chain is. And it's going to get more vulnerable, seriously. All right, so at this point, I think I painted a pretty bleak picture for the prepper. I mean, you're not going to make it long term. I hate to say that, but it's true. All right. So what can we do? How do we move beyond the prepper phase, the reactive phase, into the next phase of prep steading? Number one, after you've gotten your baseline of supplies, you can start growing your food. You grow food, even if it's a small herb garden. In fact, the very first garden I had, and I so miss this garden. At the old house, I had a raised bed that was made out of rocks that I had gone and collected from construction sites, and it had perennial herbs in it, oregano, dill, all that stuff. And they came back year after year, and they produced, and it was so awesome just going out and picking fresh herbs to have for dinner. The next thing you can do is you can raise backyard chickens and rabbits. Chickens and rabbits, and I'll add quail to this, are great gateway animals. Seriously. They will teach you the basics of livestock raising and teach you how to deal with butchering and all that. They're a great way to start. The next thing is learning how to cook. Learn how to cook, preserve food, and repair what you have. You know, this is all key. Now, these skills that I'm talking about, these are all things that will carry you from the prepper phase into the prepsteader phase, which is the next video in the series, by the way. So make sure, if you haven't subscribed yet and you like this kind of content, be sure to subscribe, because that's the next video. All right. And the next thing you can do is you can build systems. You start building rainwater collection systems. You get solar panels and you build small solar systems and battery backups. You can build a root cellar. You know, and it doesn't have to be a great big root cellar. You can get an old refrigerator or freezer and bury it in the backyard and have a root cellar for alternative food storage. You know, it's really simple. You know, the next thing that we can do, and this goes back to who said it earlier? I think Carrie said it, about skills being the most important thing. Learn and practice. Learn and practice these skills that you're developing as a prepper, as you're moving into the later stages of prepper. You know, learn to can, dehydrate, hunt and forage. That's a big one. You know, on our the very first poll that we did 2 weeks ago, a lot of people said that their plans concerned hunting and foraging. Learn how to do that now. You'd rather learn it now when you can make a mistake and you're not starving than being starving and then making a mistake. All right. Oh, excuse me. Throat's getting a little parched. Practice with no power and no internet. Take a weekend and practice that. You know, quite frankly, if I tried to do that with my family when the kids were teenagers, my wife, they probably would have smothered me in my sleep. But we still took time. Every time there's a power outage, we practice our skills on what we have to do, the plan for whenever the electricity goes out. Practice this stuff. And the next thing is, if you're living in a multi-person household with spouse and kids, rotate roles. Make sure your spouse and kids know exactly how the systems work. I'm a big believer, and I don't have one for this house. I started building one for the last house. So if you work in a corporate environment and you're in a big building, they've got facility managers, and these facility managers have manuals for everything. How to run every single piece of equipment in the building and every contingency. You should build a facilities book for your homestead or your house or your apartment or your suburban lot. Everybody should practice that. They should be acquainted. They should be able to have a conversation with you about the systems. And if they need to break into that book, they should know how to read it and make everything work. All right. So that's basically the end of the reactive prepper and explaining why you should move forward. So I've got some questions for you. And you guys in chat, I want you guys to answer this in the chat. And I want you, if you're watching this on the replay, go down into the comments and answer these questions, okay? Before we go, let's see what some people have to say. So Rabbit Coyote says, I've been showing the kids how the solar setups work here in the main house and the cabin, just so they know how to use it when he's gone. Yes, exactly. That's the exactly right thing to do. Let's see here. How many can walk out into their woods and know what most of the food and medicine are? And these are lost skills. So Holly says, I'm in my third year of gardening. I had a lot of failure the first year. This year so far has been good. And Holly brings up a great point, guys. This goes to learning your skills. So let's do the math here. So let's assume that you've been gardening from the time you were 20 to the time you're 70. So that's 50 years, right? So there are 4 seasons. Let's assume that you live in an area where you can garden 3 seasons out of the year. Because here in Kansas, even with a greenhouse, you're having a hard time gardening in the wintertime. All right. So 3 times 50 is 150. So you've got 150 seasons to hone your skills. And I know master gardeners that are in their 60s and 70s that still have crop failures. If people that are considered masters at it are failing after 100, 150 seasons, what do you think somebody that's in their second or third year is going to be like? Huh? You have to practice it, because there's always going to be failures, and there's always going to be learning opportunities. All right. So, okay, let's ask these questions. See if you guys can answer this. Are you more prepared for a short crisis or a long crisis? This is a great question to ask so you can figure out where you are on the prepper continuum. I'm going to say that anybody that can survive 6 months on their supply, and that's about it, is firmly in the prepper phase. All right. So Karen says both. Okay. Pressure cannon, water bath. So these are great skills to learn, guys. So Rabbit says he could ghost the world right now. Lynn's in the short term. Like I said, Rabbit's ready to go, man. But let's be honest. Rabbit's been at it quite a while. I would expect nothing less from him. Okay, next question. Could you maintain your current lifestyle for 90 days without resupply? Ooh, that's a tough one. I'm gonna say this. That's kind of a loaded question, because even at the homestead level, there are certain things that we cannot get on a regular basis. All right. We cannot manufacture this stuff. And it's just the nature. This is why we call it modern homesteading instead of homesteading, because we are plugged into a community. So we've got people that if we can't get something, maybe somebody else can. As a prepper, man, that's a very important question. If you can't survive 3 months without resupply, then you could potentially be in a big pickle. Think about the people in Tennessee and North Carolina that got hit by that hurricane. They're still living with tents. They went through the winter living in tents. All right. So, and just because you got your supplies doesn't mean they're going to be there. A lot of people found out that in a natural disaster, your supplies are gone. Okay. Here's the big one. I like this question. What's one skill you could learn this month that would help you produce rather than store? What can you do within the next 30 days that will move you one step closer to the prepsteader phase out of the prepper phase? Let's see what you guys come up with. I'm learning cheese making. I've made cheese for a long time, but I've never really given it a lot of thought and a lot of study. I'm learning about the science of making cheese, and it's actually really interesting. And if you guys are going to be available to go to Reliance Festival in October, it's a pretty good chance that I'm going to be teaching a homestead cheese making and milk processing class, and I'm really excited about it. We're giving the first one to the community in June. But stay tuned, because we're going to see how this goes. So Holly Ivins is working on water, learning how to collect water and make it drinkable, and also fermenting. You know what? Fermenting is a fantastic way of food preservation. All right, listen, we're getting to the end of it. So here's the conclusion. This is what I want to say. The prepper mindset is a reaction to danger. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just a fact. It's okay. But resilience on stuff is detrimental whenever you have to stop reacting and start building. You need to start building the foundation for the moving into the next phase right now so that you're ready to go when the time comes. So here is my call to action. When we do the video next week, and I had a call to action for the last video and I completely forgot about it. Hey, local prepper, I'm doing the easy stuff, man. I'm doing the easy stuff. This is what we're talking about. Local prepper makes fun of me because he says the only time I go into his live streams are when he's talking about the intricate international stuff and all that. And I'm never there for the nuts and bolts stuff of prepping. And I told him today, it's because you've got the easy stuff covered. The basics, you've got it covered, and I trust him. I don't have to be there to supervise and fill in gaps. That's why I'm only there for the big stuff. All right. But I appreciate him coming by and popping in and helping me out when I'm talking about the nuts and bolts. I really do. All right. So here's my call to action. And I promise next time we do a video, I will make sure that I remember to ask you about it. So the first call to action is identify one area where you're still reactive. Think about your situation and figure out where you're reactive and identify it. So the ancillary call to action on that is take a proactive step this week. Actually, I'm going to give you 2 weeks because it's going to be 2 weeks before the next video. Take one step, build, plant, learn, do something that's going to move you out of the prepper phase and into the prep starter phase. All right. So that's the end. That's the end of the presentation. All right, guys, I'm glad you guys showed up. So next week will not be a prepper continuum video. It is going to be, what are we going to talk about next week? We're going to talk about the FATE model of identifying psychological operations. This is a really cool topic. I did not know about this before I started studying about the psychological operations that we are subjected to on a daily basis. But it is a fascinating subject, and I think you guys will really enjoy it. The next Prepper Continuum video, we're going to talk about the prep steader phase, which is a transitional phase between prepping and long-term, true long-term survival. Yeah, Lynn says, don't forget to hit that like button, man. Help let YouTube know you like this kind of stuff, because number one, it'll help me. Number two, it'll help the algorithm show you more stuff that you like. All right. Listen, as I said before, if you're not a subscriber, you made it this far, hit that subscribe button. You know, we talk about preparedness and homesteading and all the moving parts of what it takes to live a lifetime free. And we'd really like you to come join us. All right. You want to help the channel? Go down to the affiliate links down below and get something from one of our affiliates. The stuff that's down there will go a long way to making you more food independent, making sure that you're living a more sustainable lifestyle. And you know, it's just, we would not have it there. Number one, we use everything that's in there. And number two, we wouldn't have it there if we didn't believe in the products. Okay. Listen, guys, I appreciate you showing up to this live stream and listening to me babble on about it. If you got any comments, post them down below. Most importantly, guys, go out tomorrow. When you put your head on your pillow at the end of the day, have done something during that day that's going to make you more prepared and more sustainable than when you woke up in the morning. All right, guys, listen, I want you guys to go out and live a lifetime free tomorrow and take care.
Do you ever think about living in a world where we don't have access to modern medicine anymore?
Infections just aren't going to heal themselves. They're just not going to magically get fixed.
These medications will become life-saving for you and the people you care about. It's all done online through the Jace Medical portal.
This kit right here, it's called the Jace case.
Jace Medical, they can supply you with emergency antibiotics.
If somebody gets really sick, that might be the only thing that can save their life.
And it's full of the top 5 antibiotics that we would need in an emergency situation.
It's an actual doctor that's prescribing you to this. It can be tailored for you specifically.
Getting our Jace case was super simple. We just went on their website, filled out a short form. It was reviewed by a board certified physician. And then he wrote the prescription and mailed this to us from a real pharmacy.
This is a great addition to your medical kit.
And it's